Diogenes said the foundation of every state is the education of its youth. The Junior Leagues of New York State present the Empire State Champion of Education. This is a story of learning, of being taught, and of a willingness to gain knowledge. This is the history of a fight yet unfinished, of those men who seek the light not only for themselves, but for others.
Hayfoot, strawfoot, hayfoot, strawfoot, hayfoot, strawfoot, hayfoot, hayfoot.
I've never heard that before. What's this hayfoot, strawfoot business?
Where do you come from, Lieutenant?
New York City, but what?
You haven't worked with countrymen before, I see, Lieutenant. Some of these men don't know their left feet from their right.
Oh, I can't believe that.
Sad but true. What we do is put a sprig of hay around their left feet and straw around their right. And instead of saying left and right, we say hayfoot, strawfoot. Having been raised on farms, they can naturally tell the difference between hay and straw.
I suppose these country people are pretty stupid.
Oh, no. Poorly educated, yes, but stupid, no. Some of these men, Lieutenant, show an amazing amount of natural intelligence. And that, by the way, is one reason we're fighting this revolution. I'd like to see every man go to school, every man be able to read and write. With the British as our masters, I'm afraid that would never come about. They fought their revolution, did these early Americans. They fought, won, and overthrew the yoke of oppression that the British had placed around their necks. And when they'd hung their muskets back up over the mantelpiece and buried their heroic dead, the people of New York went on with the task of being a state. That isn't an easy task now, and it wasn't then.
Hellman, I'd like a word with you.
Yes?
That was a very nice little speech you made at the town meeting. From you, however, it wasn't surprising.
How am I to take that, Sim?
Whichever way you wish. I really hope you don't think that I and the rest of the council would be foolhardy enough to accept your fantastic proposal.
I can see where it's fantastic.
Can't they? Listen, Hellman, public education is balderdash. If you want to educate your children, pay for their schooling yourself.
I haven't the money.
Then don't try to beg it from me.
Beg it from you.
Of course. Why should I spend my money to send your children to school?
Now, wait a minute, Sim.
This idea of free public education is idiotic. Give every farm boy an education and you end up with a government run by clods.
Did you ever hear, Sims, of the idea that all men are created equal? That where the people run the government, that government has the best chance of survival? Haven't you yet learned that an educated people are a healthier, happier people? Well, if you haven't, you'd better learn, Sims, because the people want education. And when the people in this country want something, they get it.
Nor were they stopped. To George Clinton, first governor of New York State, they bore their message. New York State must have public schools. And the governor listened. Being elected by the people, he served the people. And in 1795...
While it is evident that private schools are highly beneficial, yet it cannot be denied that they are principally used by children of the wealthy, that a great portion of the community does not benefit by these institutions. The establishment of public schools throughout the state is calculated to remedy this situation, and it is with the deepest conviction, gentlemen, that I stand here.
That was the beginning of education in New York State. A good beginning, yes. But enough? No. The law of 1795 called for a mere $50,000 to be spent over a period of 5 years. Only $10,000 a year for maintaining schools. Even so, there were some members of the legislature who said,
The taxes we have to pay for the upkeep
of the few schoolhouses we now have are far too great. Imagine what would happen if the school system should grow.
I'm sorry, but when the school bill comes up for renewal again, I'm going to vote against it. I'm sorry, but that's the way it stands. The public school bill, which did so much for education, was not renewed. It appeared that New York State would sink back to the condition it was in before the Revolution. However, sometimes in moments of great stress, Providence seems to take a hand. Whether it was Providence or not, no one will ever know. But one day in the New York State Legislature in the year 1801, the representative from Otsego County, Zebediah Peck, stood up and said,
"Gentlemen, I ain't an educated man, but my neighbors in Otsego sent me down here to Albany to represent them in the legislature. The rest of the year I worked my farm, and I never learned more than to read and write a little. Same goes for my friend here, Mr. Adam Comstock of Saratoga. Anyways, we heard lots about how you're trying to start free schools in the state and all the trouble you're having. We both sort of got the same idea. This particular idea come to me about a week ago when I was talking to my wife. You see, we'd been planning to sell a wagon.
Any luck today, Zed?
Nope. Seems everybody wants a wagon, but nobody wants to pay for it. We got some water. I'm thirsty.
Just set a spell, Zed. I'll fetch some.
Sure wished I could think of a way to sell that wagon without to take a loss. Hate to lose money onto it.
Suppose you'll have to. Not much you can do, is there? Here's the water. Fresh from the well bucket.
Thank you. You know, I did have an idea, but I don't know as it'll work.
Well, out with it.
Supposing we could sell that wagon to someone for $1.
It's no idea. That's foolishness.
No, I figure like this. We want to sell it for $15, right?
Right.
Well, we get 15 neighbors to contribute $1 apiece. They leave the names. Then we draw the names out in the feedback or something. The one that wins gets the wagon, and we get the money.
Zebediah Peck, you dasn't. That's gambling.
Well, folks around here gambled when they settled, didn't they? They gambled when we went to war, didn't they? Maybe they gamble now. Anyways, it never hurts to try, I always say. And gentlemen, I sold my wagon. I've made $5 to boot.
Well, that's an interesting story, Mr. Peck, but what has it got to do with education?
Well, you folks want to sell education. Everybody wants to buy, but nobody wants to pay the price. Or you got some money from the income of the land the state turned over to education, but it ain't enough. I'm telling you a way you can get it.
The man's proposing a lottery. That's nothing but gambling.
That's what my wife said, too, sir.
Oh, lottery or not, it may be what we need. What do you think, gentlemen? I'll support your idea with my vote. Mr. Peck, you may go down in history.
I always say, do your best and God will do the rest.
The idea was accepted. In 1801, an act was passed directing, by 4 lotteries, the raising of $100,000 to be used for establishment of public schools. And so Zebediah Peck, an unlearned farmer, was responsible for the first successful attempt at establishing public schools. Now we had the schools. And right here we want to point out that from the beginning to the present time, the control of these schools has been in the hands of the people in each school district. There stands a schoolhouse with its wooden desks, ink pots, blackboards. Letters of the alphabet parade in Indian file across the walls of the room. The students sit straight in their seats waiting for the lessons to begin. Very well, let them begin. I said, let the lessons begin. Well?
No lesson.
Why?
No teachers.
No lessons today. No teacher to teach the lessons. what to do.
It is obvious that unless something is done and done quickly to raise the standards of the teaching profession and to make teaching regarded as a profession, then teachers, students, and the entire system of education in New York State will come to a sad state of affairs. The only hope I can see lies in the establishment of schools for teachers.
And because people believed in it, it was done. A state school for teachers was founded in Albany in 1844. There are now 11 teachers' colleges in New York State. In 1812,
Gideon Hawley was appointed first superintendent of common schools.
in 1846,
The Constitution was changed to provide for the free education of every child in the state.
in 1854,
The Department of Public Instruction shall be considered as a separate state department.
thus did education progress in New York State. Now it is the year 1894. An industrial revolution is in full swing. The country is expanding rapidly. But what about the schools? Let's look in at our classroom again.
Now, class, we will open our arithmetic books to page... Just a moment, class. Yes?
Are you Miss Sweeney?
Yes, I am. What can I do for you?
My name is Jones. They told me downstairs my boy Timmy's in your class.
Yes, he is.
Well, look, miss, I've come to take Timmy out of school.
But why?
Well, he don't study, he don't like school, and I don't think he's learning nothing. I got 5 other kids at home. My wife is sick, and we need every penny we can get. So Timmy's got to go to work.
But he's only 10.
Listen, lady, I started work when I was 8. Now, do you mind if I take him home with me?
That was the big problem in 1894. If a child couldn't go to school or simply didn't want to go, no one could make him. The legislature, alarmed at the situation, pressed for action. And then, in the year 1894,
Every child between 8 and 16 years of age in proper physical and mental condition shall regularly attend school for the entire time that school is in session. Parents of children who fail to do so shall be charged with a misdemeanor and will be subject to fine or imprisonment or both.
another obstacle in education had been overcome by the will of the people. Today, 150 years after the first Free School Act was passed, New York State is one of the leaders in public education under the leadership of the Board of Regents. The battle is far from over. More teachers are needed. Smaller classes are vital. Someday, this dream, too, will be realized. But for now, let us take stock of what other accomplishments in education we, the citizens of New York State, have helped bring about.
The High School of Music and Art in New York City,
The Bronx High School of Science,
The Batavia School for the Blind.
and many other special schools.
and many special classes for pupils paid through special revenues.
Statewide Regent scholarships for gifted students.
Classes in home economics, driver training, classes to meet all the needs of our growing civilization.
These and many more are products of New York State's concern for education. And lest some forget the seats of higher learning, there are in New York State many colleges and universities which lead the country in scholarship and research in every field of human learning. And so we have presented just a glimpse of New York State and its role in education. From the one-room schoolhouse to the modern watchtower of scholastic achievement, we've followed the course of events that made New York State a leader in the field of education. We've listened to the statesmen, we've spoken with the teachers, and we have learned of the people and their desire for knowledge. The long struggle is far from over. What will be is up to you, the future citizens of New York. To you remains the task of keeping the Empire State a champion of education. been listening to the history of education in New York State. This program was produced by the Junior Leagues of New York State in cooperation with the State Department of Education and was produced in the studios of WPTR in Albany, New York.